I'm going to bring it right back now to administration and all that kind of stuff, which we love. So the issue I've chosen to raise on this panel is broad and varied in the national context. So given the time available, I will keep it high level and generalised. What I discuss is drawn on my observations at the Northern Land Council, where I've been employed for the best part of 17 years now, and conversations with interstate colleagues over that time. On this premise, it appears that the issues I raise will likely have a familiar tone, if not directly experienced by anthropologists working in land councils and rep bodies. That makes it a lot easier to see. What I'd like to prompt with this session is a discussion of the impacts to the discipline and the sector, and ways we might combat the devaluing of in-house anthropology by the same organisations that employ our specific expertise. What are the strategies colleagues have used with success, and what is the potential for inter and intradisciplinary collaboration to support in-house anthropologists to apply their expertise in their chosen field? Over the past 20 years, I have observed a diminishing of anthropology and its role within land councils and rep bodies. This is most relevant to in-house or staff anthropologists rather than the consultant experts. This occurrence appears to be widespread within the sector to varying degrees. I attribute this observed devaluing of in-house anthropologists primarily to a change in the workplace relationships between anthropologists and lawyers and other high-level staff. Not dissimilar to the transactional service relationships between anthros and lawyers that Nick referred to yesterday, but I refer to as administrative anthropology here. So before I go further, I wish to make it clear that it's not my intent to be overly critical or to place blame on our legal colleagues. They are, in my view, a very key part of the solution. My own experience working with lawyers during my career has been positive, intellectually stimulating, and a relationship based on collegiate exchange and teamwork most of the time. Nevertheless, I have seen colleagues in the Territory and interstate experience more difficult relationships with their legal counterparts. At the NLC, 20 years and more ago, there was a strong in-house anthropological research and fieldwork focus. The importance of in-house anthropological research was recognised and supported throughout the organisation, with a preference for staff anthropologists to conduct that research. Over the past 10 years, I've seen a steep decline in in-house research in favour of bringing in consultants, either at the direction of legal or other staff, or by anthropology themselves, in response to resourcing and administrative workload issues. Today, this seems more the rule than the exception. Moving away from claims work, a number of factors will facilitate the erosion of in-house research, and it will vary across organisations. An organisation's corporate structure and resourcing, both staff and financial, appear to be common factors. Another is an increased emphasis on administrative process to the detriment of research, particularly where anthropological advice is necessary to validate or authorise decisions pursuant to legislative decision-making frameworks. This is particularly relevant to the post-determination space, including agreement making and their administration and compliance. Over this time, this has led to a reduced capacity of staff anthropologists to do research and instead become reactive administrative service providers to the various branches of a land council or rep body. The high staff turnover, which is so common in our organisations, cements the expectation that this is the primary role of staff anthropologists. A critical role of applied anthropologists employed at land councils or rep bodies is, or should be, to be knowledgeable about the social organisation, land tenure and body of normative law and custom or tradition of the Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander groups in their organisation's jurisdiction. Understanding and applying fundamental social anthropological understandings of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander law and culture are critical to the role of an in-house anthropologist in order to provide cogent anthropological advice pursuant to the legislative duties and functions of a land council. To do this, staff anthropologists need to undertake their own research and fieldwork with clients. By undertaking research and fieldwork, in-house anthropologists build their expertise to support the legislative duties and functions of their organisation and critically build client relationships. With the acknowledgement that there is an element of administration in every role, the growing trend devaluing the specific expertise and role of in-house anthropologists to that of administrative service providers within an organisation greatly diminishes the critical contribution to the legislative duty and development capacity of land councils and ultimately service provision to Aboriginal clients. Acknowledging that anthropologists are hired for specific anthropological expertise, the version of administrative anthropology that in-house anthropologists have been relegated to all too frequently considers only the tip of the iceberg in terms of research and expertise. To do our jobs well, that is, to provide considered, cogent anthropological advice in response to the functions of a land council or rep body, we need the rest of the iceberg, research and engagement, supporting it. The provision of in-house anthropological advice in relation to legislative decision-making frameworks is critical in the pre, but also in the post-determination space, where staff anthropologists are more likely to be relied upon over that of consultants. So I also think here that there is a critical role for anthropologists in the post-determination phase. And I say this coming from the Northern Land Council, where we have the Aboriginal Land Rights Act, and arguably for a very long time we've been working in a post-determination space of land management and agreement making on Aboriginal land. Also, and quite critically, part of this is working with traditional owners to identify and recognise their aspirations for their own land, their own economic and community development aspirations, and how they want to use the land. I think anthropologists can play a critical role in informing development and implementation of decision-making frameworks, corporations governance, agreement making, administration and compliance, and importantly, the monitoring and evaluation of agreements. This is an area that I think benefits specifically from anthropological expertise. In terms of discussion, I think that there are some impacts that need to be considered or workshopped by us as a group of people working in the sector around the impacts of having a lesser anthropology discipline employed or utilised in rep bodies and land councils. I think loss of corporate knowledge, the anthropological knowledge, the relationships that anthropologists are supposed to build with clients is a critical one. Staff retention, if anthros aren't happy doing whatever it is they're asked to do that's not anthropology, they move on, and with it anything that they have worked on in their head. And I just think, well, it's kind of opening it up, I mean, for discussion, and perhaps you know, the NLC is alone here. Maybe this isn't something that's happening across the sector to any broad degree, bearing in mind that I live in Nhulunbuy and I'm a single anthropologist in that office, so I don't have a lot of discussion with my colleagues. But anyway, that's what I wanted to sort of raise and throw out to the crowd.